Hey everybody, welcome to my series of videos on mindfulness. My name is John Christie. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Colorado, and I'm here to share what I've learned over the last 15 years of counseling people in a wide variety of settings to help you learn how to think, learn how to use mindfulness in a useful way. So we will be doing a wide variety of topics, certainly based on thinking and mindfulness, but obviously relates to things like depression, anxiety, and a wide variety of topics. So if you would like to chime in on those and comment below on topics you'd like to see, we'd love to add those in, and we can do those as well. Like we said, this will be a focus on thinking and how mindfulness works with that. But before we get started, we want to do probably just a brief history of psychology. Just so we have an understanding of where we've been and where we are now and where we want to go to. So about 100 years ago, there were behaviorists, and because they were studying behavior, that was the first thing that people said, well, we got to study people, so let's watch them behave, and that will tell us a lot of information. So they did that for about 30 or 40 years, and they learned a lot about people's behavior, and they said their responses to stimuli is how they behave. Now the problem is that definition's really vague, so they continued to study for another 30, 40 years and really got into emotion and how emotion affects behavior. So that was studied for a while, and then about in the 80s and 90s, about 20, 30 years ago, we have started to develop the idea and done more studies and realized that thinking comes before emotion. All right, so we have external stimuli, we have thinking that goes on that can helps control emotion, and that controls behavior at the end, right? So that's where we are now. But now we also in the age of the internet, so we have a lot of information out there. Some of it's very helpful, some of it's kind of confusing. So we're going to go through some of the stuff that's more helpful and some of the stuff that's confusing, and show you what's good and how to use it. Now the first thing that we have is a graph that's widely available on the internet. We have behavior, feelings, and thoughts, all part of the basic idea of cognitive behavioral therapy, but we have arrows going everywhere, and I'm not exactly sure where to jump in. And if someone with training doesn't know where to jump in, I can't imagine someone without training would know where to jump into this continuum and try to help control it. So what we're going to do is find a way for you guys to dive into the system. So basically what I'm working on is cognitive therapy. There are a lot of synonyms for cognitive therapy, a lot of synonyms for cognitions. So we'll look at a few of those too, because this is what a lot of people talk about in therapy and other videos, and we want to make sure we understand what we're working on. Because I could have you come into my office and have you work on your focus, and then next time have you focus on your perception, and then your attitude. So there's a lot of synonyms here about your responses that we need to understand that are thinking. All these mechanisms and how you imagine and how you have an idea and how you recall something is the mechanisms which you don't do that with your feelings, you do that with your thinking. So now we're going to work on what does that system ultimately look like, right, in the very general sense of the word. And so sort of the first lesson of this first video is the idea that we have events, and events are ultimately neutral to the brain. They come in, and the brain is very thorough in how it thinks about these things, but so when it comes in, it doesn't have a bend one way or the other, and it thinks of these things as neutral. It takes them in with these 5 arrows. These 5 arrows represent your senses, and that's how we take in information from the outside world. We don't live in a vacuum, and we see things, and we hear things, and we feel things, and that information goes into our body. This is where the internal part starts, and this is where we're going to break into the system. There is finally an opening. It's right here, and we're going to jump in it. Very hard, right? I'm not going to have you do easy things, but this is where we jump into the system. That information goes to our brains, and our brains think about it. Again, one word, one organ, affects other things, but the first thing we need to know is it affects our thinking. Those thoughts affect our emotions, which is E. Third, those emotions build up and they cause action, they cause behavior. So we have our first acronym for that, something easy to remember, the system and how to break into it. T. Okay? Thoughts control emotions, emotions control actions. Now remember, we have conscious thoughts and subconscious thoughts. So even though you don't feel, you don't think you're thinking, and you just have the feeling, trust me, there are thoughts in there, and we will dive in there. All of our brains work the same. Okay? Just like our hearts all work in the same, they're very unique because of the way we live. Our brains are very unique because of what we've experienced and what we've been through. That's the nurture part of our brain, but the nature part of our brain, all of our brains work the same, like our hearts work the same. No one is different in that way. So let's understand that. Then we can certainly understand how someone's unique, but we first must understand the basic system. Now, next video that we'll be working on are going in a little bit deeper, since thoughts are the thing. We're going to look at the 6 elements of thoughts and how your brain, in a sense, digests what it's thinking about. It's very thorough and it's very complete. So, but it's complicated. So we'll get into that next time. Thank you very much for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you.